It doesn't feel much like the middle of July, but here at Snetterton, the sun is trying to break through as we get set for British GT Championship qualifying. The four parts of it, with the GT3 element and GT4 both split into two, with the two race grids being assembled for the two 1 hour races that we look forward to tomorrow. The GT3 cars at the end of the pit lane ready to go. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside. It is a cold track. It's not exactly been the warmest of days, but the cars liking these temperatures. It gives them the chance to not be strangled by the heat.
Yeah, exactly. Both engine and tyres prefer the cooler temperatures. Obviously, denser air for the engines, and then the denser tarmac as well, generating more grip. Seeing quite a big queue, aren't we, at the end of the pit lane? People looking like they want to be at the front of the queue. Quite common, especially on these longer laps. You get less laps for your 10 minutes time, so track position even more important than on a shorter lap. Talking of the trap, here we are. Couldn't quite get 3 miles, could we? 2.99 for Snetterton 300. 12 corners. A lot of mid-speed corners in the first part of the sectors, and then in this last sector we've got the old Snetterton. We've got under the bridge, Bombhole, Corman into Murray's, and that's really where we see the Mercedes tend to like the last sector, sector 3, the high downforce from that Mercedes really coming into its own. But mega circuit, we've had some mega races over here in the last few years.
And it's one of those circuits that's kind of got a bit of everything. You've got 1 or 2 fast bits, you've got some tight bits, you've got some technical bits. It's a real engineer's nightmare in terms of the ideal setup, knowing exactly what you need. The extra element to Snetterton has been that sort of other mile and a half or so within the first part of it, the paperclip style infield with lots of corners. Now, GT3 cars out on track first of all, so the road gets busy. Track positioning is going to be crucial, and Joe has made the point. You've only got 10 minutes in which to do an outlap, to get your tyres up to temperature, and there already a rotation. The McLaren goes around, and that, I think, is Morgan Tilbrook.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's one way to get tyre temperature. Not the best. Hopefully he doesn't pull out in front of Petrovelli there. He'll be really flustered. Martin's going to get around him. Morgan Tilbrook, his teammate, Marcus Clussen, his teammate to Morgan Tilbrook, will be on the blower, on the radio, telling him, right, that's fine. Let's just check the traction control, because the cars are so advanced that it should be physically impossible to spin a car with the correct traction control settings on. The tyres have come hot out the oven. Yes, they were sat in the pit lane, but quite a bizarre one there. So that is not how you want to start your qualifying session. Luckily, it was low speed. It shouldn't have flat spotted anything, but we saw little panics from Morgan at Spa, and I was saying I think he just needs to rekindle the form he had a couple of years ago when they were dominating at Donington, winning by a minute. They need to find that a little bit more and find the consistency more often.
And the problem is that you make an error and it gets into your head, and you make another one and you overdrive to a degree. But yes, we know he can do it. They've been race winners. Right, 1 or 2 are out of the pits a bit late. That at least buys them clear track space. I think one car that's been late out, the Collards, Rob Collard will go first. So remember, it's 1 driver per session. Kevin Tay was the first one out, the Hong Kong Macau driver. There he is, Spa winner with Maxi Goetz. And somebody like Maxi Goetz, who did a lot of miles in about 10 days because he was there for the 24 hours the week later. This, the car that won the last time out, the 2 C's Motorsport Mercedes. And he's managed to get himself clear track space. Yeah, amazing bit of space. I'm just looking for Collard on our timer. Saying he's in the pit lane, but can't quite see where he is at the moment. So coming into turn 1, actually the Garage 59 guys getting ready. So probably Morgan Tilbrook coming in maybe for a check. But it's actually Sean Balfe, the sister car, boxing on the outlap. We never see that as a strategy. So hopefully they've just got a quick problem that needs turning off again. But let's see, Kevin Say looking tidy so far, not really using much exit. An oddity here at Snetterton here is we see both Garage 59 cars coming in. Morgan coming into his pit box, have to park at 45 degrees here. I don't see the play there. I don't see why you would have left on used tyres to come in for new. We've only got 7 minutes remaining. You've used 30% of the time of this session, and you're not going to do a flyer for another at least 2 minutes because you've got another outlap to do. You wouldn't cross them, would you? Because you wouldn't do that on a rear-wheel drive GT car. No, these are proper cars. Exactly. We don't have to do stuff like that. So it's quite a nice thing to have, really. But you're right, it eats into the session, and it's going to mean that it's about 4 minutes worth of competitive motoring. Kevin Say, in theory, will offer us up the target time here. This is a Mercedes-friendly circuit. He's got the road to himself, as I say. So down the back straight goes Kevin Say, Ian Loggy doing the chasing. It's interesting as well that it's only the Garage 59 McLarens that came in. The Optimum car of Mark Radcliffe stayed out.
Yeah, I think it's a team idea. I just unfortunately don't have the brain capacity to work out what the idea is there. Lap time wise, we're seeing the clock ticking 25. We're about 20 seconds away now from the finish line. I think the AM pole is going to be a mid to low 47. Rob Collard was the quickest AM in both 3 practice sessions, in around that. Very early on the brakes there, Kevin say, so maybe just not confident, still missed the apex as well at the last corner. Gets a good drive out, the Mercedes V8 pumping around his teammate Ian Logie behind. So let's see as he breaks the beam, what's it going to be and how far off is it? 49.5, I think that's a couple of seconds, and Balfe is feeding out in front, and it's probably just compromising, more of a distraction rather than the physical deterrent. Mark Smith here in the paddock, GT3 McLaren, what's he going to do? We've just seen him getting quicker and quicker as the season's gone on, probably been my standout driver so far, 50.2, so a fair bit slower than what I'm thinking, but Rob Collard is on a double purple lap as we go on board. But look, he's backed out of it. That is not full pace coming into the last corner. Why, I don't know. Just looking around, maybe he had a bit of traffic that we didn't see, but that was strange. That could have been a pole lap going on the first part of the lap.
But he's staying out, so it's not going to be a shabby one, is it? He comes across the line, and it puts him up to 9th fastest. But yeah, the last sector was a slow one, and son Ricky is equally perplexed there, shaking his head at the old man. So what's he playing at?
I mean, his last sector is 4.3 seconds slower than the fastest guys at the top, and he's off pole by 3.5. Yeah. So he would have been pole by 8/10.
Unless he had a moment somewhere that we didn't see just before we cut to the car, maybe. We've got now lap times being disallowed. So Alex Martin for Barwell has had a lap taken off him, and so also has Giacomo Petrobelli. Now, you can't afford to be doing that when you've only got 10 minutes available to you. Yeah,
especially when the tyre's at its best on the first flyer. So you lose that probably 2 or 3 tenths the next lap. The tyre's just dropped off a bit. So now you're under pressure. All of these AMs will be on strict instructions from their pros. Your first lap is your banker, then we go banzai, and then when the tyre fully drops off, then you go Hail Mary, and you just give it everything it's got. Collard has gone purple again, so potentially that tyre's hanging on a little longer.
And from Bryn Lucas in the pit lane, Garage 59, that was part of their plan. They wanted to get everything up to temperature on used tyres before strapping on a new set, so they only get 1 shot at a lap time. You're still frowning.
I just don't get it with the time you've got remaining. I don't know if it's them saying that we shouldn't be racing in the UK because our summer's so bad and they need temperature build-up. It's a car I know well, and it's not a car that I know that needs any temperature in it. The brakes, everything can be warm within half a lap. So, yeah, let's see at the end of this session if they're right or not. I'll use that as my evidence.
Absolutely. Well, the paddock, McLaren and Mark Smith, 2nd fastest, getting on with the programme. And now Alex Martin goes top for Barwell, 1:48.038. Here comes Rob Collard then, the 2020 champion. He's up towards the line. He's dropped time in the middle sector. He's got to be doing something in the 48s to be at the pointy end of the grid. He breaks the beam, and it's a 48.5. That puts him 2nd fastest then. So it's a Barwell lockout at the moment, 1 and 2. But more track limits are being offended. Mark Smith has had a lap taken off him, and also Carl Cavers, a lap taken off him.
Yeah, so hard track limits here. You can see the Lamborghini bucking into there. I mean, it is a bull, but I don't think they're meant to buck like that under braking. So I'm also hitting some of the floppies round Coram. So Rob is on it, but hasn't quite hooked up a perfect lap yet when you were just looking at his sectors. Track limits, as I said here, hard at Snetterton. So many sensors. They're black and white. There is no argument there. Sandy looking on in the sister car. Alex Martin currently on pole position, so he'll be happy. He's just gone purple as well, Martin. Both him and Collard within a 1,000th in sector 1. So Collard only goes green as Martin has a big moment. Both of those cars looking wild on the rear, really underdamped, and the whole car's bucking around. Not really seen that with the Lamborghini recently.
And also Alex Martin has got traffic up the road. Look, Carl Cavers there, who needs a proper lap time, having lost his best, is not in the way of Alex Martin, but you know, you come up on a car like that, it's going to put a bit of hesitation in the mind.
Yeah, when he's in the way like that, he definitely is an annoyance, and Martin's backed out of it, even weaving to try and get a bit more tyre temp. So maybe these cars are struggling in the slightly cooler conditions than we're used to. Time remaining, what, we've got 2 minutes and 3, so this could be his last fly. He's about to go on to
Giacomo Petrobelli in number 87, the Aston Martin from the Blackthorn team, up to 3rd fastest. And Sasha Kakad has gone 4th as well now, number 32 in the JNS Racing Audi. Right, Alex Martin is already the quickest he goes through. Here is Collard, who's done 2 personal bests. If he strings it together nicely, it could still get him up at a pole position. He's only got to find half a second only. Comes across the line, and Collard's lap is quickest, 1:47.899. So Rob Collard with 3 personal bests, no absolutes, but a really well put together lap. And that's enough, and that's finally made Ricky smile.
Yeah, exactly. Finally on the 3rd flyer, Dad, you've done it.
Yes.
Again, we go on board. Even from that angle, the car looks quite nervous. Rob Collard still the only AM to get into the 47s this weekend, so he has really been in a class act of his own. Love this onboard, looking back at the driver. Looks pretty calm, hyper-focused with his gaze there, coming into another big braking zone. Let's just watch the rear of the car to see how stable it is. There's a few bumps there, looking better than it did at turn 2. And yeah, pretty compliant in all fairness.
Free practice 1 at the start of the day was on a dampish road that dried out. They got down to 146s towards the end before spots of rain came again, but we haven't got there quite yet. You're on board and you can see him at work as well here. Rob Collard, look, another purple, another absolute best. That is Kevin Say, who's gone off the road on the infield. Rejoins, but that's going to cost him. In fact, no, that's coming out of bomb hole, isn't it?
And that's an easy flat corner, and now he's in the front of Petrobelli as well, so interesting to see if he boxes or not, because he could just squeeze another flyer in, but he's in an awful bit of space, isn't he, to get on. Collard purple again. It isn't a green sector 2, but it's very close, isn't it? So this could improve even further. Does he need it? It doesn't look like it at the moment.
Yeah, as you say, dropped a bit of time in the middle, but an absolute best in the first might compensate for that. And it's not always about purples, as we saw, because those 3 greens on the previous lap did it for Rob. So ex-oval racer, turned Formula Ford racer, turned touring car racer, and now GT champion. He will take the checkered flag this time as he comes up towards the line. He's already the quickest. A 47.8 is his best. Breaks the beam this lap on a 47.861. Quicker still.
Yeah, Mega now nearly 2 tenths clear, isn't he? We're just trying to see who else is improvement. But yeah, like you said, he's done a purple sector 1 and then 2 yellows and still goes quickest. Yeah. Here we have the Audi leading the silver AM class. Had a hard spar, big crash on the first lap. They nursed it to the end, but Sasha Kakad has been really quick all year. But 4th overall, 1st in silver AM. That's a decent effort from a very similar Lambo-esque Audi.
Yeah, Hugo Cook, who will take the car into the next session, jumping from Audis in British to Lamborghinis in World Challenge Europe as well this year. Morgan Tilbrook, slowest. Lap times disallowed for abusing track limits, and of course he had a little bit less time than others to play with, given that he had that drama. Richard Neary has gone up to 3rd fastest on his last lap, improved in the ABBA Racing Mercedes. So it's Collard, Lamborghini, Martin, Lamborghini, Neary, Mercedes, ahead of Petrobelli. This man, Sasha Kakad, and Ian Loggie's Mercedes is 6th. There's Richard Neary then, up to 3rd quickest. Good effort at the end.
Yep, really good from the Nearys. Just looking at people I think aren't going to be happy. Tilbrook, the obvious one. Mark Radcliffe, really not going to be happy in 14th. Kevin Say, all the way down in 11th. We saw him have a spin. I could actually see as we went on board with Collard, the witness marks, the skid marks that he'd left. He was so wide around bomb hole. It looked like he'd just kind of forgotten to turn in. So why I'm excited is this is going to be a mega race tomorrow, because not everyone is in the order they should be or think they should be. And obviously now we've got 2 one-hour races. This is the grid for race 1. We don't have the aggregate that we have been having on our endurance races. So this is this is where you start your race that you qualified from this session.
With the GT4 cars that will qualify a little bit later on with their grid towards the back. Richard Neary then, if there's a bigger enthusiast for GT racing than the Neary family, I've yet to find them. It doesn't matter whether it's British GT or international GT or, if you like, club level GT racing. If there's an event on, they're in it. And Richard Neary, despite all the bad luck and all the incidents they've had, they bounce back. And both Richard and Sam, his son, very quick drivers. Sandy Mitchell then, Lamborghini factory driver, heads for 78. And Ricky Collard, very much a free spirit, but a very rapid peddler. He will jump on board 63. Out gets Dad, the 3rd generation of the Collards. Grandpa, the late Mick Duffy Collard, an absolute hero of hot rod racing for decades. And it was from the ovals that Rob came. It was from karting that Ricky came. So let's have a look at the order then at the end of Q1. It is Rob Collard fastest by 0.177 of a second from Alex Martin, his teammate. Ian Loggie 3rd in the end, just getting there at the very end ahead of Richard Neary. Giacomo Petrobelli 5th ahead of Sasha Kakad, and then Sean Balfe, whose son Tom had a win about half an hour ago in the Ginetta race here. 8th, John Ferguson, who went off the road yesterday. Matt Topham 9th ahead of Mark Smith, Kevin Say, then Carl Cavers. Mike Price ahead of Mark Radcliffe, and Morgan Tilbrook 15th, barely getting a proper lap time in. So the driver in that second column will be the driver now behind the wheel for Q2. And the fast lane is open for the GT3 cars to make their way to the end. On a new set of boots, Ricky Collard, Sandy Mitchell, Phil Keane, Sam Neary, Johnny Adam, Hugo Cook, Adam Smalley, Max Hesser having his first ever race in the UK, Josh Rowledge, Martin Plowman, Maxi Goetz, never been here either, Lewis Plato, Callum McLeod, Tom Gamble, Marcus Clutton. It's a quality entry that you've got for this second session. Well, flip a coin. Who's going to be on pole?
I'm putting my money on Phil Keane.
Okay.
I haven't seen him on pole yet this year. Lovely slow-mo of Collard there. Really hustling the car, but yeah, much softer on the rear than I expected. That's what I can see in the front, lifting up every now and again. I think the Barwell guys will be looking for a bit more compliance over an hour race. Probably hang on to that while the tyres are new and got that extra bit of grip, but it's going to be difficult. But yeah, as we go, a big slide there as well. You can tell that hot rod experience, can't you? I've never driven one myself. I watched the YouTube videos, and that's exactly how it looks, but not normally in a £500,000 Lamborghini with 600 horsepower. But yeah, I feel Phil Keane has been on great form. 2C's Mercedes has been strong, very good in the speed traps. And then sort of the obvious answer is probably Sandy Mitchell and the sister Lamborghini to this. Just gets so much seat time now. Because he's so fast, he gets so much seat time, he gets so much faster. It's a positive snowball Sandy is riding at the moment.
Q2 here at Snetterton for British GT is underway. It's the second session for the GT3 cars. Yeah, just going back to your Rob Collard point, he was always one of the great overtakers and fast starters in touring car racing. And he said, well, part of that's down to all those years on the ovals where you come straight out onto the track. There's no practice, no warming up laps particularly. You just got to deliver on cold tyres. And deliver he did in Q1. Rob Collard the fastest, and he can tell all about a demon lap to Bryn Lucas.
Well, Rob, you're in deep conversation with Ricky there when you did the driver changeover. A really good lap for you. With the championship in mind, you're only 5 points off the lead. You've got a bit of pit stop compensation time to serve as well. So how important is it for you to start on pole tomorrow?
Yeah, it's mega important. Every race you want to start from the front and hopefully drive away. I was just saying to him, the car's quite difficult to drive this afternoon. I don't know if the sun's come out and the grip level's dropped, but it's the advantage I seemed to have earlier when the temperatures were cold, we haven't got that advantage at the moment. So it'd be quite interesting to see what Ricky does. But yeah, for Sandy, for the other cars to be a bit closer, we had half a second in the bag this morning, and now we haven't.
Well, it's interesting to see you were building lap time as it went, where other cars were maybe getting their one lap in, so you were managing to work your way through. Well done to you. You do start on pole at the moment, provisional anyway. Back to commentary, we'll see how Ricky gets on. Cheers, Rob.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Right, that's Hugo Cook, the man from Northwich, near Alton Park, in the J&S Audi. And we'll see how that car fares after Sasha Kakad's efforts in that earlier session. Down towards turn 12 he comes. The green lights and the green flags showing that the track is clear, the session is live. And in and amongst all of this, Maxi Goetz and Max Hesser, new to Snetterton. Max Hesser joining John Ferguson. Raffaele Marcello is away at Interlagos for the FIA World Endurance Championship. So it's another BMW factory driver, Max Hesser, parachuted into the car. He looks at how the jobs are allocated. You go to Brazil, I go to Norfolk. Okay.
Sao Paulo or Snetterton?
Yes. Okay, I must be the junior then. But Max Hesser, very, very quick. Championship leader in GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup and winner of the Paul Ricard race at the start of the year. The more time he gets around Snetterton, the quicker he will be. It's going to be fascinating to see how he gets on. You're looking, though, at the Audi. Hugo Cook at the wheel of it. Yeah,
looks really planted. Happy so far with that car, I'm sure. He can use a bit more exit there. Keep talking about track limits. There's different rules for different corners at Snetterton. If there's not a sensor, you can do what you want. If there is a sensor, you have to play to the rules, and it's odd. You're going to see very different lines. You're like, well, how's that not a track limit? Well, it's not enforced, so it's not illegal unless you get caught, and that's really much the metric here. So onto the back straight, there's a sensor looming, so you can't go anything beyond that curb, which Hugo Cook does very well. Car looking good, just looking at his sector times. He's about 3 or 4 tenths off the ultimate fastest that we've seen, and again weaving. So these cars are struggling, I think, to get the temps up. So that strategy we saw of Garage 59, it doesn't look like they've replicated it with the pros so far, though.
But 6 minutes already is all we have left. So because of the length of the lap, as much as the lack of time available, you really do have to be on it, and you can't afford to muck about with exceeding track limits. You've got to be quick, you've got to be precise. and you've got to get those tyres up to temperature as quickly as you can. And if you want to do the weaving to get the warmth into them, you need some clear track space. So when you are released by the team is going to be important in all of this as well. Hugo Cook will offer up the benchmark lap time, but I think Sandy Mitchell's going to knock it out of the park when he comes over the line. Hugo Cook goes by. It's a 1:49.7, so there's a lot more time to be gained yet. Now, this is Sandy Mitchell. You're on board with him.
Yeah, it's looking really planted. It's just trying to see how much he can keep it to the right here under braking. It's really hard to get it in. We can see him in the background there. Tom Gamble coming across the line. Is he going to get into the low 46s? 45.6, that is quick. That's nice. The quickest we've seen this weekend. Mitchell coming across the line. What's he got? 45.8, couple of tenths behind. It's tight, but that is quick pace from those two.
And Callum McLeod is best of the rest, third ahead of Hugo Cook. So Sandy Mitchell hustles on. That's one run, but he's going to get another at least out of this set of Pirellis. Might get two more good laps. A little bit deep maybe through the hairpin, but he recovers it nicely. He's back on the power. Curb on the outside. Sets it up now for turn 3. Nobody around him to get in the way. And this is Maxi Goetz, who needs to salvage something after Kevin Say didn't qualify all that well for race 1.
Yeah, exactly. Purple sector 1 under the bridge. What's he done? It's a green, and it's not far off purple either. But someone's stolen his purple. Who is it? Sandy Mitchell has improved even further on that. So these guys are getting a few laps out of the tyres, flat through the bomb hole. You can see the camber and the gradient there. It's the only bit in Norfolk I think there is to have round Coram. It's like turning right at a roundabout. Nothing inspiring about it, but you need to get it set up for the last corner to get a run on the second longest straight. Looks really planted, that Mercedes, and I think this is going to be close if it can get in front of Gamble's 45.6.
Let's see what he can do then up towards the line. Maxi Goetz breaks the beam and goes third fastest. It is a 1:45.691. He's 2 thousandths back from Tom Gamble. So 14 thousandths covers the top 3 on the grid. That's nuts.
Yeah, massive slide from Mitchell there. That might be that good enough for pole position now. Who is on pole position? The man who said it was going to be Phil Keane, but there is only 14 hundredths between them. This is going to be tight with Mitchell. He is going to be somewhere in between, I think, Gamble and Keane. But what's this last corner going to be? Is he going to get a bit of a slipstream off McLeod here in the Grainstone Merc, or is he going to get held up? Looks like Palin was looking for his own space. This could be good enough.
And there are more purples being snaffled. Maxi Goetz has gone quicker than anybody in Sector 1. Sandy Mitchell quickest, 1:45.594 as he breaks the beam. Now, we haven't really got anything out of Ricky Collard yet. He's only 7th. We've not had a Johnny Adam time. We've not had an Adam Smalley time. We've not really, up until now, had a Sam Neary time. He's only 11th. Marcus Clutton has just gone 6th. And Tom Gamble has pitted. I reckon that's him done with 3 minutes and change on the clock. So Gamble third might well drop.
Yeah, and that's the gamble, because if he has a track limits sensor issue later, he hasn't got another time on the board, so he's obviously happy with it, and like you said, he can't improve, and that's what we're seeing from the Mercedes and Lamborghini. They're able just to keep pushing and pushing.
And talking of track limits and times being disallowed, Johnny Adam time disallowed. That's not like Johnny, and so he's gone back to 15th last because his decent lap time has been taken off him, so he's got to go again. This is Maxi Goetz. Look, purple, green, absolute best, personal best. Is this going to be strung together enough to go onto pole position? Let's see. He's got 1 corner to go, and then all the grunt and go of that front engine Mercedes then will carry him up towards the timing line. He's got to get into the low 45s to get onto pole position. 43, 44, up towards the line he goes through. It's quickest. It's a 1:45.554, 400ths quicker than Sandy Mitchell.
How tight is this? We've got the top 4 covered by less than a 1/10.5. It is brilliant. I don't think Mitchell's got anything. Unless he's doing it cooler, he's given up. He's got time for 1 more, but Phil Keane is purple over this car.
Ricky Collard is only 6th. That's Ian Loggy looking on, and looking at Johnny Adam as well, who is down in the first sector. So Johnny Adams' grid position for race 2 might be a bit pocked here. You've got Max Hesse 9th. This is Sam Neary, and he is up to 7th. So it's Goetz, Mitchell, Keane, Gamble, McLeod, Collard Jr., Neary Jr., Clutton, Hesse, Smalley, Plowman, Cook, Rowledge, Plato, Adam. That's the order. Sam Neary up the curb. We've got 1 minute and 3/4 to go still as the cars now make that run to Hamilton and then up towards Oggies. That is Phil Keane. Joe's tipped for pole, and he's currently 3rd.
Yeah, he's purple and he's got a yellow, but only by 1/2 a tenth. So it's all to play for in this final sector. The sector the Mercedes loves, which is positive for Phil, but he's got to go faster than his sister Mercedes, which is going to be hard. I think Maxi Goetz has been early on the brakes here. See where Phil is equal, but you see him bleed out of the brake. So hard to keep the car stable, so he's obviously a bit nervous that the rear was going to come round on him.
Tom Gamble's gone back out. Whether he's got time for a flying lap, we'll see. And Phil Keane here, it's got to be a low 1:45 for pole, and it is! It's a 45.454. He's a 10th quicker than Maxi Goetz, and that means now we have got the leading 10 covered by less than a second. Phil Keane has done it by a 10th.
Amazing, and again, seeing his car squirming under brakes. Maybe these slightly higher temps have changed the track a little bit more than we were expecting, but I think we need to tell Ian Loggy you should be happy. Pole position, good. And Phil Keane has delivered here, hasn't he? Just looking down the time screens, is anyone else really improving? Sam Neary a little bit, but no one else particularly fast.
Yeah, Johnny Adam a bit, up to 12th. You wouldn't play poker against Ian Loggy, would you? So Phil Keane goes out of Agostini, and let's see, you know, he's down in the first sector, so he's down by a gnat, but he's still pushing on. He gets up past Martin Plowman's McLaren there. Who else is looking quick? Well, in sectors, Johnny Adam is pushing, and he needs to, and also Max Hesse, and he needs to in John Ferguson's BMW. And Phil Keane down slightly in the first sector. If he's down in the second, we know the lap's not really going to achieve a great deal.
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely his last lap, and these tyres will be used in the race. So if you can save 3 miles, then calm down. Checker flag is out, so everyone coming past will get that, and this will be the final bit. I think we're staying where we are, is my personal feeling. I don't see any changes, apart from Campbell has gone green. So after boxing bizarrely, he is slightly down in sector 2, but yeah, he's only 2/10 off. This could still be a gamble lap here.
And Johnny Adam went through and only got to 13, so big frustration. And that's Ricky Collard, who is mid-spin, midway out of the S's, and with a yellow flag, that's going to affect the drivers that were on a full proper flying lap. 77's had a lap time taken off in. That's Marcus Clapham. So Dad pole, Ricky spin, and only 7th.
Yeah, just waiting for Gamble to come across the line in the next 2 or 3 seconds. That's our last one.
Sandy Mitchell, purple, sector 1. So Sandy Mitchell, absolute best in the first sector. And look up the road as he comes onto Bentley Straight, not a car in sight. This could put him back to the top of the times.
It really could. He's almost been hiding, hasn't he? Yeah. I stopped talking about him for 2 or 3 minutes because I thought he'd done a cool-up and then boxed because he couldn't improve. Sector 2, how is it? It's okay.
Down.
This is going to be tight, isn't it? Looking squirrely. This is where his teammates spun just there. Car looking loose. What's it going to be like through the bomb hole? Easy flat, touch the curb, let it run wide. No track limit sensors. You can unwind the lock. Through Coram, how's it looking? Still pushing on hard, isn't he? Car's got balance. Where's his braking point? Looking okay, looking stable. Get the car in, nurse the throttle. Don't light the rears up. Good on exit.
Right, the time he's got to beat is a 1:45.454. Phil Keane, pole position. Sandy Mitchell, pole position. Which is it going to be? Sandy Mitchell goes through. Pole position, 1:45.373. To the delight of Alex Martin, a 1:45.373 by 81 thousandths. Sandy Mitchell goes on to pole position. What a lap.
Amazing. On lap 6, when this tyre only drops off bit by bit by bit, he's done it on lap 6 with only 1 purple sector like you've seen, 2 yellows. The consistency is wild. Ian Loggy now smiling at the wrong time.
Yes, I was going to say
I think
that.
You can see the humour of losing it. Alex Martin, the happier one out of the smug smiles. He can't quite believe it. I said Keeney's going to be on pole, maybe Mitchell. They're first and second. I still won, I don't care.
Yeah, how is that fence on which you are sat? Alex Martin, who we saw racing in Carrera Cup and in the British Touring Car Championship for a time, looks much more comfortable in GT racing. He's getting quicker and quicker all the time. And with Sandy Mitchell's tutelage, it's all standing them both in good stead. So Q2, this is the grid for race 2 provisionally. Alex Martin, Sandy Mitchell will start on pole position thanks to Sandy Mitchell's time ahead of Phil Keane and then Maxi Goetz. 4th, Tom Gamble from Sam Neary and Callum McLeod. Ricky Collard, 7th. Marcus Clapham, 8th, ahead of Max Hesse, and then Adam Smalley. Hugo Cook, 11th, from Martin Plowman, and then Johnny Adam, Josh Rowledge, and Lewis Plato, rounding out the order. So, Sandy Mitchell, right at the very end, puts the number 78 Barwell Lamborghini onto pole by 81 thousandths of a second from Phil Keane's Mercedes, Maxi Goetz Mercedes, and then McLaren of Tom Gamble. But out of that top 6, 4 Mercedes. They're doing something right around here.
Yeah, I think the naturally aspirated nature of the Mercedes and the Lamborghini and the Audi, I just think the low torque corners turns 2 and 4 really just lets those cars drive out of it. I think that is a positive and it makes it easier for them drivability-wise.
Well, it'll be a delighted Sandy Mitchell and a very chuffed Alex Martin, I would have thought, who's watched his co-driver snatch pole position. Bryn, is Alex going to take the glory for that and the credit? What do you reckon?
Well, let's find out. I think he might. Alex, the question is, will you take the glory for that?
Oh, yeah. That's the AM driver's prerogative, isn't it?
You set the car up beautifully just there, didn't you?
If I hadn't have brought it back in one piece, he wouldn't have done it. So there's some gratitude got to come this way.
I spoke to Rob after the first qualifying session and said, how important is it for them on that side of the garage to be pushing you guys, particularly with the fact of the pit stop compensation time? You guys don't have that in the first race tomorrow, so you can push on from there too.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to battle that more than anyone else this season with the 2 race wins, and obviously we had a DNF. We got taken out at Silverstone, so we've had an uphill struggle, but somehow managed to calamity our way to stay on the top. Yeah.
You calamitied your way to stay on the top. It's looking very, very nice ahead of tomorrow. Go and get some rest. Alex, well done.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
And well done Sandy Mitchell as well, who also deserves a bit of the credit, doesn't he? There in super slow-mo is one of those very committed laps coming out of Sandy Mitchell, the Scottish driver based in Nottingham these days, not too far from Donington, and still somebody who flies under the radar a little bit. We know he's good, but he's not the most demonstrative of drivers. Lets his driving do the talking, but very quick, very personable, and a very talented driver. He's formed a really good relationship with Barwell, with Lamborghini, of course, hence he's on that factory roster, and helping Alex Martin in his first year of GT racing. And remember that they had a win at Alton Park. Only one, sorry, they had a win at Donington as well. They are the one double winning crew of the year. Q3 is underway here at Snetterton for our British GT Championship weekend, and this now means we do a bit of a double take. The speed is slightly different, it's just as competitive. It's GT4 and 1 or 2 new driver combinations and 1 or 2 new liveries as well, taking the Academy Motorsport Mustangs into consideration. The Will Moore Matt Nicol-Jones car. Matt Nicol-Jones will go second. It's Will Moore in this session, and the new livery certainly catches the eye.
Yeah, definitely much prefer it. The noise as well it makes suits it, doesn't it? It's a very American noise. Yeah. It's a pretty American. We just need some stars on that and an eagle maybe on the roof and it'll be perfect. But Will Moore and the 62 teammate, Matt Nicol-Jones, team owner, team principal, going to be first across the line. What's he going to be able to do? The Mustang has been getting better and better new car this year. Obviously ran the old Mustang for the last 3 years, so to get this new car, they'll be getting their head around it and they're loving it, running it in European GT4 as well. They're almost getting double the track time over there, some of the competitors. You see the Optimum McLaren here, Weaving still getting it. This car does lead the championship by 3.5 points, by 3 points, then half a point back to Fossetti. And
Fossetti could clinch the team's championship on Sunday. There's 129 points available for finishing 1-2 at Donington and Brands, and 86 across the races here. So it's a bit of an outsider, but it is possible that Fossetti could take a team's championship. It's always the drivers that you concentrate on a little bit more, and Will Moore is going to be the driver to offer up the benchmark time because he'll be first across the line. Behind him, look, number 11, that is Adam Hatfield in the Paddock Motorsport McLaren Artura. You've got 4 GT4 champions of seasons past on this grid. But you're right about that Mustang. Not only does it sound great, that colour scheme sort of brings it alive a little bit, doesn't it? The grey and silver stealth livery didn't really attract the attention in the way that this does. And Will Moore, who's another driver that gets faster and faster all the time, sets off being able to unleash all of that power down Bentley Straight. And the other Mustang has got Marco Signoretti at the wheel of it, and that'll be a quick car too. Yeah, do you think the livery makes it look even bigger? It's already a big car in GT4, but no longer hides there. You have seen the brakes glowing on that car, probably just about okay on lap 2 at the moment. Actually need a little brake for the bomb hole. Don't normally see that in a GT4 car, so maybe it's just got so much grunt out of it there. You can see the front struggling to hold the inside line round Coram. This is going to get a little loose potentially as Will tries to bring it back over, but he's going to be our benchmark time. Looks like Hatfield stayed with him, so it looks like they're going to have a pretty close lap time. Abe McDermott in the green and black Mercedes behind has dropped them a little bit, so what are we going to do as we cross the line for Will Moore? 57.0. Hatfield, yes, slightly quicker, 56.7, so that's where we're at. I think I expect those times to drop a little further still to come. Right, Signoretti in the other Mustang comes over the line, and he will go second behind Adam Hatfield's McLaren. There's the Toyota that had a broken wheel stud in testing yesterday. Next one through number 31, that's the Charles Dawson driven Mercedes, second quickest, Charles Dawson. That's somebody that in a very short space of time has quietly gone on with the job of motor racing after a GT4 European Series last year, British GT this year, learned quickly and really unlocked the pace this season.
Yeah, he seems to have done everything right. He's chosen a good car in the Mercedes, a good team with Team Parker, a good teammate in Seb Morris. So it's allowed him to really flourish, I think, and he's done a mega job. Another driver that's looking to flourish, Aston Miller. We've seen him really flirting, haven't we, with lots of different manufacturers. Aston Martin, European GT4 last time out at Spa. I've seen him in a McLaren as well. What's he going to do lap time-wise? P1 by 1.3 seconds, 55.4.
And he's super sub because Stuart Middleton is driving a Goodwood this weekend, doing the manufacturer demonstration runs and the like. So Aston Miller parachuted into that car and goes quickest. This is a nervous McLaren. This is Jack Brown at the wheel.
Awful. That would have been a Code Brown moment for Jack Brown. That was 3 or 4 big snaps, really similar to some of the GT3 cars. I'm amazed how loose the rears are looking. The Fassetti cars are going to cross the line. We've got a purple for Mikey Porter there. Is he going to be able to take anything to Aston Miller? No, but only 3 thousandths behind. That is incredibly close there.
Yeah, Mikey Porter, the youngest driver on the grid at 17. Josh Rowledge is 18, and Hugo Cook, that we talked about in the earlier session, is not far behind at 19. Right, the backs of drivers as they look at the timing screen. There is Aston Miller going quicker again in Sector 1, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. And although it's only 600ths, that's more than enough. He needs to find the 3 thousandths that Miller's just stolen the pole position from him. So it's going to be interesting to see where this one goes.
I do like the livery on the GTO cars, like somebody's just got a bucket of black paint and lobbed it, but it works, doesn't it?
You know, when your printer runs out because it's too tight to buy a new cartridge.
Right. Yes.
That'll be okay. The boarding pass will get me on the plane. You can see he's actually catching the Ram Mercedes GT4 really quickly, isn't he? Is that going to compromise Miller on this lap? He has gone purple, he has gone green. I think he's just about safe at the moment. It just depends if that was Mercedes of Harry George is going to have an issue, then it could compromise him, or it gives him the perfect toe.
Yeah, if Harry George sort of backs out of this and tries to be kind, he's going to back out of it at the wrong part, isn't he? So I think he needs to stay on it. There is the Ginetta then, which has done a personal best in the middle, an absolute best in the first sector, and therefore he should be able to drop that 1:55.4 to a slightly better lap time. Let's see what he can do as he breaks the beam. Mikey Porter, in contrast, slower in the middle sector. Miller goes and does a 55.496. So actually he lost out in that last sector. Not by much, only by 61 thousandths, but it was enough not to improve the lap. Now, this is Mikey Porter. He dropped a little bit of time in Sector 2, and he's trying to make amends.
Yeah, these GT4 cars being slightly heavier do work the tyre. The tyre's also smaller, so it's not as wide as the GT3. Too much curve there. Traction control just doesn't like that. It's confused by what it's meaning. My yaw is this. I've got wheel speed of X, and it would normally mean that it cuts too much. Let's see, he crosses the line. Yes, goes slightly slower as well, a couple of tenths slower than his best. So are we seeing a much earlier peak from these GT4 cars? If you look at the timing screens, there's still some greens, but predominantly yellow.
And track limit abuses. Ian Duggan has lost a lap in the Lotus, and also, so in number 29 has Ian Goff. So there, I think having completely backed out of his lap is Mikey Porter. It looks like he's slowed right down. That's 31. Now, Charles Dawson has fallen to 8th for Team Parker Racing, but he's still pushing.
Yeah, cars just can't get over how loose they're all looking. The teams are going to have a lot of data to look over here. If it's this warm tomorrow compared to the 5 hours of testing they had before qualifying, they're going to have to be doing some different setup work here.
Now, that's still, though, not only 8th overall, but the class leader in GT4 Pro-Am. So Charles Dawson goes by. Now, this is Jack Brown. He's up to 3rd, even though that McLaren didn't look that compliant.
Yeah, Anna Green, Sector 1. He's only a 10th off pole. The first 3 are really in a class of their own. Behind Brown, sorry, Will Moore, we saw him do his lap early on, is 4th, but 8.5 tenths behind Jack Brown. So let's see, he's got so much space. That car in front won't be a distraction at all. Sector 2 is just before the bridge here. What's he going to do going through Sector 2? It's yellow, and it's a couple of tenths off the ultimate best, but only 600ths off his own best. Again, using that curve, trying to help rotate the car, looking a bit more compliant now. So maybe that nervous rear we saw earlier was just tyres not quite up to temperature. Out of the bomb hole, not using too much curve. When does he lift now? And then Corum, as a driver, just playing with the throttle. It's not an easy point of lifting or even how much. And again, looking really loose. And that, unfortunately, migrates the car to the left, which narrows the angle for the last corner, which kills your exit out of here. And you'll just be watching your delta dropping away from your ideal lap time. Can he improve? Let's see.
No, after all that effort. And it's Coram, the exit of Coram, that seems to undo the whole lap for him, isn't it? That's the car that's quickest and has already done from Q1 for the GT4 cars for the driver change. So Aston Miller, good effort that, and I think he's going to be okay. The times have dropped off, haven't they?
Yeah, they really have. Where we saw Sandy Mitchell doing his best lap on lap 6, these guys, the first 3 have all done it on their second lap. Lap 3 for Will Moore, lap 4, and then it's a whole stream of lap 3s and 2s, really. So the GT4 is definitely working the tyre harder. The sun's come out a bit more. Maybe the track temp is going up. Aston Miller talking there to Tomlinson, just saying, Freddie, this is what we need you to do. Going to plug his radio in. Looks like the Zach Meakin, getting ready to get in. It's quite an emotional way to be held on your helmet, so to speak. And he'll just be getting some last-minute advice, just going through all the motions. They do so much prep before the session, but you'll just be highlighting the couple of areas that you thought you could improve the most.
So it is a Ginetta then ahead of an Aston Martin, ahead of a McLaren, ahead of a Mustang, a Ford at the end of Q1 for GT4. Marco Signoretti will give way to reigning champ Eric Evans in the other Mustang, and the pit lane is busy as the cars from GT4 come in and switch drivers. Just looking ahead to the 2 races, because of the confines of the pit lane, there are effectively 2 pit windows. There is a slight overlap between GT3 and GT4, but it's not the same pit window for both. So in theory, the pit lane ought to be just that little bit more bearable for the teams, because you don't have a great deal of space here. Although it's an entry that's lost 1 or 2 for this weekend, it is still a very crowded house when you get to the pit stops. So the flag out. Let's see if anybody else can improve on the last lap. Actually, not that many takers for the flag. The majority had bailed early, haven't they, knowing the track was slower, and therefore taking that extra 2 or 3 minutes to get the incoming driver settled and happy for the next session. Yeah,
and again, keeping the tyres out a little bit fresher for the races tomorrow. GT4 having 5 wheel nuts as well just means the tyre change is about 40 seconds slower than GT3. So if you are done, then get the car in, get your teammate installed, new tyres on in good time, so you can potentially get better track position for the second part of this GT4 qualifying.
In comes Mikey Porter then to hand over in the Forzetti Aston to Jamie Day. Jack Brown gives way then to Zach Meakin, as we were looking at a moment ago. He was getting himself ready, and the McLaren Artura then good to go in Q2. The fast lane is open. That means the teams now can, if they so desire, get to the end of the pit lane and queue and get themselves clear track space. There are others still, though, on their in-lap. So Aston Miller the fastest at the end of Q3, which is GT4 qualifying part 1. Mikey Porter second, 0.003 of a second shy. We thought GT3 was close. It's just as good in GT4. Jack Brown third ahead of Will Moore and then Adam Hatfield. Marco Signoretti sixth from Sai Sanjay's McLaren, going very nicely. 8th Charles Dawson ahead of Harry George and Mark Warren, who was a double winner here last year in Porsches. Ian Goff 11th from Ravi Ramid, then Kabi Jundu's Toyota ahead of Ed McDermott and the redoubtable Colin White. Ian Duggan and Stephen Lake's Lotuses on effectively home soil sandwich the Audi of Tim Docker. GT4 Pro-Am pole going the way of Charles Dawson, the silver pole, and of course they have extra time to serve in the pits of 14 seconds of the all-silver class entries. That pole, Aston Miller. So the second part of GT4 qualifying coming up, different driver, same cars, and that will determine the GT4 order for the second of the races that we get tomorrow. The first session is for race 1. Second session for race 2. But before we get into the second part of qualifying, Aston Miller, great job for pole position. Let's join Bryn Lucas in the pit lane.
Yeah, fantastic job there from Aston. And also remember that this is this car's 3rd pole position in a row, but the first time with the hands of Aston Miller this season. A great result here for you last year, but what can you do? I mean, how much practice and time have you had in the car?
Yeah, obviously jumping in the Ginetta yesterday for the first time this year. Obviously raced the car 2022 in the Super Cup version, but in the GT4 version, a little bit of testing yesterday. Car feels really good. I think we got it in a good window, but it's part of racing, isn't it? We've got to go out for quali, and I did a good job there. I think I did a good job. The boys did a good job at DTO and 24/7. Also, obviously Ginetta have put a good car together as well. So, yeah.
It certainly didn't. As I said at the beginning there, it's the third pole in a row now for this car. And for Freddie, who's in the car right now, of course, he won't have the pole position tomorrow because that'll be you in the car to start with. But how likely is it we're going to see Freddie do the same as you just now?
I mean, Freddie's a quick driver. We know that for sure. So I think the car's got the package. It seems okay. There's a little bits that we could improve on, but that's part of racing. Yeah, I'm sure Freddie will do a good job.
Are we likely to see you in the car then, or is Stuart going to return for the rest of the season?
I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Lawrence.
Have to ask the boss. Ask Lawrence. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Bryn. Well done, Aston Miller, then, who came out of Ginetta Junior Racing, so returning to his roots, if you like. So in super slow-mo, a look at the Ginetta rattling its way through the S's, skimming the curve for the first part. This is the middle part, or the second part of the S's, and that high curve that in a GT car you don't really want to hit. In a touring car you can get away with it, but there the tyre rattles over that serrated curve, the low-line curve, and a good lap. Aston Miller the quickest. Right, green lights are on at the end of the pit lane, green flag is shown, and we are in business for the final part of GT qualifying. Another short, sharp 10-minute blast, and let's see who's going to be on top this time around. And that, by the look of it, is something called Blue Sky. We don't get that very often in the UK this time of year.
I was going to say, last time I saw that, I wasn't in this country.
No,
It was
quite,
weird, doesn't it?
yes.
I think warmth follows, so now we take coat off, I think.
Warm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's this odd feeling that's just nice, all over your body, not in certain areas. But we're seeing jockeying of position a little bit more. This is the more pro part of the session. A lot of silver entries in GT4, so they should be very similar in their pace, but a lot more pro-am cars this year in British GT4. Really a class that's growing. I think the popularity of GT4 now suddenly starting to flood all the way through the ranks, and AMs are no longer looking down at GT4 as the little annoying brother. It's now a proper car with lots of option car-wise as well. You've got McLaren as a proper supercar, Audi, Lotus, Mercedes, BMW, Ginetta. There's lots of options now, Ford Mustang to choose from. So it's a real option for lots of drivers now to come racing in.
And it's a global success now, GT4. You've got some GT championships, like France, as an example, running purely for GT4. Here it's a class within the championship, same in Asia. You've got a GT4 America championship. There's the very successful GT4 European series, of course. It's a global thing now, GT4. It was a slow burn, but when the manufacturers finally got involved, no stopping them. Right, there, the Lotus, a car new into the championship this year, the Emira. You've got one for Nathan Harrison, and that car is Gordy Much, number 20. He's behind the wheel, and we know that he's quick. You don't get that many Audis these days in GT4 in the European series, but it's good to have the Tim Docker, Jordan Albert car on the grid here. And all of that takes 2 minutes, and we've not yet had a car really, other than one Mustang, start a flying lap.
Yeah, and everyone jockeying for position. Jordan Albert being pretty fair there with Gordy Much, giving him the run. Gordy's still weaving, so we are seeing tyre temps as a little bit of a problem. I'm surprised the teams maybe haven't cranked up the temperature in those tyre ovens. Matt Nicol-Jones doesn't seem to be struggling for any grip there, gets the car in well. Good traction out of there as well, and much easier to spot the difference between these two Mustangs as well. Matt Nicol-Jones, Will Moore in the much bluer car, and then Signoretti in the sister car in that much more red one, so it should be easier to spot, hopefully for me anyway. I've been struggling a little bit at times. Eric Evans there in the background. Matt Cowley obviously knows that car well. He was in the older generation last year and was champion in it, and they've had torrid luck really, Matt Cowley and Ed McDermott in that paddock run Mercedes. Had like a couple of DNFs before they've even started with a prop shaft failure and such like that, but so far Will Moore looking pretty good, still purple in sector 1 after the first 7 cars have been through, so I think he'll be happy with the start of this lap so far.
So Matt Nicol-Jones presses on to Bentley Straight. Looks a little bit of a handful, doesn't it? He sort of turns and eventually bites, and he has to have another go. But Matt Nicol-Jones, player manager, because it's his team, Academy Motorsport, that operates these cars. As Joe rightly says, he's done a purple in sector 1 and now in sector 2. But again, the car has a little bit of a hop and a skip, and it doesn't necessarily look as planted yet as he would like it to be.
Yeah, I do think these changing conditions that the teams have faced, coming from a cooler practice to a hotter quality, actually suits the drivers with a bit more confidence, a bit more skill, that they're happy to let it hang out. And Matt Nicol-Jones, I would class as one of those chav drivers. You know, he would have been in a McDonald's car park at 17 in his Vauxhall Nova. I think he's that old. It wouldn't have even been a Corsa. And that just means car control is a second nature to him. because he's always driven like an idiot, and now it's coming to the floor, and I think this is going to be a seriously quick lap. We do see Jordan Albert on a purple sector in that Audi we were talking to earlier at the moment, but 55.8, pretty good start for Matt Nicol-Jones.
Matt Cowley goes second, Eric Evans goes third. So bear in mind now in GT4 you've got the Silvers, you've got the Pro-Ams and the newly appointed Chav class. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Matt's quite an old Chav as well.
And he's the quickest of the Chavs, with now Cowley and Jordan Albert there, look, in the Audi up to third. Jordan, good to have him back racing this year, because after many years on the sidelines with no budget, he's been busy helping at iZone, the sim emporium, but it's good to have him back on track. Now, what about Seb Morris for pole position? Another very experienced GT racer, not that experienced necessarily in terms of GT4 machinery up until this year, but having had a win at Alton Park at the start of the season with Charles Dawson, this should be a good lap. He's not as quick as he was in terms of the purple sector has been taken away from him, but the first flying lap is good enough to go top. 1:55.4. Zach Meakin in the McLaren's got other ideas about that. Seb Morris, a 10th to the good, ahead of Charlie Robertson now, number 71.
Yeah, snuck through Morch and Tomlinson sectors as well. Meakin comes across and takes pole position at the moment, but I think this car at the moment looks like it could be doing enough to steal it there. So we would have had 5 different pole position drivers in the last 2.5 minutes, basically. What's this going to be? Second, 3/10 behind, so Meakin's last sector was super strong, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Seb Morris, lap time disallowed for track limits coming out of turn 9. That is coming out of the S's, I think, isn't it? So they're 56. That's Freddie Tomlinson up towards Wilson.
Yeah, we can see that graphic there. We did think Meakin was strong in sector 3. The Ginetta strongest in the middle sector. The McLaren winning first and second, and that is why he's overall pole position at the moment.
Right, so Seb Morris loses that lap and therefore has to go again. It means that the Ginetta is up to second, so it's McLaren from Ginetta, and then third fastest now is the Aston Martin that Will Orton is hustling on. Fourth quickest is the BMW Charlie Robertson in for Ravi Ramyeed. Fifth quickest Jamie Day in the Aston, and then sixth now it is Tom Holland, having relieved Colin White aboard the Ginetta. Number 58. You're looking at Tomlinson, still pressing on, still looking good. And Jordan Albert goes through, goes up to second in the Audi. That's going very nicely.
Yeah, 3 green sectors, so the tyres are obviously hanging on well in that Audi. Tomlinson still improving as well, so this could be another shout. Only 3/10 off pole at the moment. Meakin, yellow sector, but very quick in sector 1, green sector 2. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where these all shake out. Seems like the tyres are holding on slightly longer in this session than the session before for the GT4 cars. Seb Morris without a lap time now. He's on an okay lap, but I think that's probably only going to put him 5th at the moment. So he has that track limit penalty. Really, really hurts Seb Morris.
Seb Morris up to 5th on that lap then in the Mercedes. So as long as that one stays, there's no notification that it won't, then I think he's going to be okay. This is Freddie Tomlinson then. Gets it all squirrely coming out of Coram, and that makes the car all nervous coming into and through turn 12. Steps it up the curb, so a little bit of time scrubbed off in the middle and in that third sector as well. So third he was, goes across the line. That lap was a 1:56.0, so half a second was lost. But he managed to hang on to the car.
Yeah, again, super loose, isn't it? We've seen a lot of cars there. It is historically a place the cars struggle because you're asking so much of it. But luckily, some good car control there from Freddie. But maybe, again, the rear tyre's just gone there. Gordy Much, again, rear of the car, moving under the bridge, heavy braking. Currently in P8, he'll want to be higher than that. He's had a lot of fastest laps in the races this year, had a lot of pace out of that car. Gordy Much's teammate Ian Duggan always messaged me saying that Gordy Much is the best driver he's ever driven with, so let's see what he's got. He's certainly hustling on through there. Maybe too much, just a little bit too wide through there. The grip is all on the white line on the inside there, misses that apex. He would say, well, I missed the apex because I was going so fast, it was impossible. So the average speed was great. Keeping tight to the wall to try and not get any of the slipstream from the headwind we get here. Does he improve? Oh. No. No,
in the end, the last sector lost out. So 2 greens and a yellow means that Gordy Much stays 8th fastest, I should say. The other Lotus is 18th. Nathan Harrison is yet to really kick in and needs to hurry up because he's got 90 seconds in which to do the kicking. 29 there is the BMW you can see that now has Tom Wrigley behind the wheel. They do sound great, the BMWs, but that car around here is struggling. 15th, you would expect it to be higher.
Yeah, I think the bop has been a little poor on that one, they're saying to me. Just a little bit too heavy, and that's showing in that middle sector. Tom Holland here at the moment, currently 9th. 2 green sectors though, so can he hustle it up again? Big slide through there. It's like everyone here is going for style points over lap times into the last part of the lap. Coming all the way over the start-finish line. What's he going to do? Can he find a couple of tenths to lift himself up? No. He did go faster, didn't he, but still just behind Gordy Much there by 0.02 of a second.
That's right. So Holland to Much is now, yes, negligible. Jordan Albert, in the meantime, still pressing on. The Audi getting stronger and stronger, and it's good to see the Audi. Of course, it was the championship-winning car a couple of years ago. Jordan Albert at the wheel. He's done a personal best and then lost a little bit of time in the middle. While all this is going on, Eric Evans not necessarily improving his sector times, but he is doing standout speeds. And Zach Meakin has just done the absolute best. He's already quickest. You can see on the graphic the purple next to number 90. That means an absolute best within the first sector. Jordan Albert, personal best, and then down in the second.
Here, yellow flag out there is a 61 Mustang in the grass somewhere there, I think, just coming back onto the track. That is Eric Evans. You just said he's done some purple speed traps. Obviously couldn't get it stopped in time. Did Jordan Albert improve on that lap? He did not, and he took the checkered flag. Just to elaborate a little bit more on the 69 Harrison car in last place by 4 seconds. They did do an engine change just before qualifying, so I'm not surprised if that wasn't quite there. He's lost that 10th he found, hasn't he, Zach Meakin in sector 2. So at the moment he's bang on course to level his lap time. So he might as well go for it in sector 3, give it everything. I'm saying that because I want to see a massive slide round the last corner, and let's hang it out round here, go on board, hold it in. When's the rear going to give up? Not yet. It'll be when he just starts to breeze on the brake, most possibly. And now he's backed out of it. He's heard me saying I wanted some style points. Quite neat and tidy out there. A little bit of a slide. Going to have a clear run to the line. Might as well finish the lap because this is the end of British GT qualifying. He's got to beat a 1:55.223. He crosses the line and does a 1:55.227. So 400 slower. Pretty consistent.
Not bad at all. 4,000th drop then by Zach Meakin, and Jack Brown looks on, thinking that'll do. We're a 10th up, and that's pole position then. And although that McLaren didn't look the most compliant of cars, it's turned out to be a quick one. So you end up with McLaren ahead of Audi, ahead of Ginetta for the top 3.
Yeah, the Optimum garage really went mild there, didn't it, as they got pole position. Seeing some cool heads in Loggy earlier on, not about happy when Phil Keane went pole, but yeah, I think that car has obviously got some pace, because I think there's half a second there in tuning in the car just to be a little less wild. I think the oversteer was only a negative, it wasn't a positive for overall rotation, in my opinion.
Net result of that, the Mustangs 10th and 14th. Bit disappointing given how we were optimistic. Matt Nicol-Jones, the quicker of the two from that session. His was the Mustang that was 10th. New Mustang, of course, for this year, which is still being learnt about. But in the new livery, they look good.
Yeah, super tight, isn't it, in the midfield of GT4 there, from Will Orton behind him. Less than a 10th covering the next 4 or 5 cars, sorry. So again, the race tomorrow is going to be pretty spicy. When we see gaps like that, then the overtaking naturally becomes harder, so you have to become a bit more forceful and robust with your overtakes.
And the top 14 covered by less than a second. That gives you an idea just how competitive GT4 is. So it's a McLaren on pole position then for GT4 for race 2. Zach Meakin did the time, but no doubt it's a very happy Jack Brown as the other driver with Bryn.
Of course he's happy. Look at that smile. It's as big as a smile ever gets, isn't it, Jack? For yourself, you're third quickest in your session, and Zach as well, you know, going pole. This gets you back on track after what happened at Spa.
Yeah, no, nice to be back at the front. A bit disappointed with third, but I mean, you know, tomorrow anything can happen. Zach and the team did a good job this weekend. But yeah, you know, as you say, nice to be back at the front.
How tricky is it going to be for you guys tomorrow? I mean, when you look at the championship, there's only 3 points between you and second place in the championship. It is oh so tight, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's very tight. I always say we just need to try and keep it clean and do everything right. You know, that's down to me, Zach, and the team. And you know, providing that all goes well and there's no mess ups, then you know there will be a result there for sure. So
certainly good positions to start. Well done.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
So Jack Brown and Zach Meakin can celebrate. Zach doing the time in this session for pole by 0.108 of a second over Jordan Albert. with Freddie Tomlinson in third. Fourth, Will Orton ahead of Seb Morris and then Jamie Day. Charlie Robertson seventh ahead of the Lotus of Gordy Much. Tom Holland's Ginetta, and then the faster of the Fords, Matt Nicol-Jones 10th from Alex Walker, Matt Cowley, and then Dan Vaughan. Eric Evans 14th from Tom Wrigley, Luca Hopkinson, then Callum Davis and Nathan Harrison rounding out the order. Silver pole to Zach Meakin, and the best Pro-Am time to Jordan Albert, sharing with Tim Docker. And they will be at the front, of course, those two side by side for race 2, which is based on this second qualifying session for both GT3 and GT4. Standalone sessions for the grids this weekend rather than the aggregate we have for the longer races. So, really entertaining stuff and some good jumbled grids as well. These 10-minute sessions put the emphasis on the teams and the drivers to get it right. And when you don't get many laps on a long circuit in those 10 minutes, then pressure definitely tells. So, there we have a very happy Zach Meakin out of the car. Photographs will be taken. And Zach Meakin it is then for GT4 pole position for race 2. And the McLaren it is then for pole position for that second race. Tomorrow is a busy day for the teams. They've got the warm-up session that we'll have at 9:35, race 1 at 11:25 and race 2 at 4:20. We'll see you for the action tomorrow.